Everybody, good morning. Welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host Anne, and disembodied hands, Justin and John. How are you guys? Badger, mushroom, snake. Shadow Raven. Yes, it's Fungal Queen Day, and I have more inspiration. Like, we're gonna work on pale skin tones for her today. Sometimes you just have to stare at a model to like figure out what it's going on with it. Hello everybody. Hello. I'm still pretty chill today. This is a pretty chill week. I like the beginning of the month. The end of the month, I'm always like, but beginning of the month is like that. Those are my emoticons, my emojis, my Ann emojis. Howdy indeed. Let's see here. So we used Troll. Let me get my happy little cheaty sticky note. Oh, that's right. That's right. I used some driftwood brown in that green. That explains it. See, this is why we keep our sticky note, guys. The sticky note with the thing on it. So let's grab those colors here. And if you don't have driftwood brown, although I highly recommend you get driftwood brown because it really is a lovely highlighter for dark browns. But you could also use desert stone probably in this. It would end up a little grayer though. Let me get my beloved Troll Hide. Where are you, Troll Hide? Troll Hide's almost possibly my favorite color. It's becoming my sub for Swamp Green. Even though Swamp was darker, you could add a little black or brown liner to this, or even a little blue liner if you wanted to, and make Troll Hide a nice replacement for Swamp Green. This has the right intensity. It has the right chroma to be a good replacement for Swamp Green. So again, we got that, and then we were using bleached linen to bring it up. Now, one clever thing we could do is... Where did I put my bleached linen? It's hiding. Where is it? There it is. So those are the colors that we mixed to make the skin tone, the base for the skin tone. But we wanted it to be kind of this pale white color, right? Because fungal. So we could choose to kind of bring this color up with a bit of a skin tone and then bring it up to white if we wanted to give her a more humanoid look. I think I'm going to stick to the bleach linen. Maybe I'll add in a tiny bit of a normal skin tone. But if I did that, I probably would use pale flesh. So we'd end up with something like, as far as our color mix for the skin, we'd end up with something like that. The pale flesh would work a lot like the rosy flesh worked with Monique, where we're working it off of some lighter olive green, and it just adds a little more color complexity and interest to the skin. We probably wouldn't even end up seeing the pink, to be honest, because, you'd see it if you really looked close, but because her cap is going to have this rosy color, and I decided to bring it actually a little bit more intensely red. So we'll be working with that over the next several streams of her, but it would still add just a little bit more convenience links. Right. That's totally. Totally have everybody buy Troll Flesh and Driftwood Brown. Totally. So yeah, don't forget. Yeah, okay, you got Driftwood Brown. Good. Hello from Brazil. Hey, Brazil. Cool. Ale Moro, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, Troll Hide is just if you're looking for a nice dark olive green, and dark olive greens have a lot of utility, not just in basing, not just in trolls either, as you can see, because I used it to build this nice olivey color for her base. The base of her skin tone. It's a really versatile olive. I used to use Swamp Green and that was canceled, but this is a good replacement. It might even be a little better because it's a little bit lighter, so you don't have as much black in it, which necessarily will give you more versatility when you're mixing with it. So Troll Hide is much advised. Sorry, brain. Neither David nor I slept very good last night. Slept very well last night, so my English skills are a bit challenged today. My brain, I can't brain. I cannot brain. All right, so let's mix up our base skin color because we want that. Even as we bring it up, we want to be able to touch up if we go too far with our highlights. Grab my well palette down here. Sorry, Fungal Queen, you can come back in just a second. So 2 drops of Troll Hide. I'm going to actually double the recipe today just to make a nice big well of it so that I can transfer brushes over and So I'm doing a 4-2-2 essentially. Make a nice big well of it. And then I'll add a little bit of the skin tone to build a first highlight. We will end up going up just with the bleached linen, most likely, maybe even with pure white, because she is a fungus, so I don't mind going up with a pure white. Although, if we're gonna make any parts of her glossy, then then you definitely want to go up to pure white. But otherwise, pure white usually isn't super necessary. Though it can certainly work for skin, especially if she's kind of moist and glistening. We haven't talked about basing her. So if I decide I want to go with kind of a wet base, like an underground wet base for her, then we totally will probably go up to pure white on some things to make them look kind of like wet. We'll see. I'm not sold on that idea yet, so I may just want to do kind of a fantastical cavern base. Alrighty, so there's our skin tone. We've got it all nice and mixed up again. Looks like it turned out a little darker this time than it did the first time. That's standard when you're mixing drops of paint. Sometimes you'll just get a little bit more of one or the other. It really isn't an emergency. You can always correct it. It's close enough is what we call it in the biz. When it comes down to it, most people won't even notice looking at your model, especially because it's mostly for corrections. So I'm going to do my standard then. Now I could just mix up, I guess if I wanted to, I could just mix up a new puddle. But after that, I'm going to do what my usual thing is, which is use that first puddle and transfer it to a new well to build further highlights. But we'll do a separate 4-dropper here with the 2-1-1 formula. And then I'm going to add pale flesh to it. And at first, this pale flesh is probably going to make a pretty hard difference. So I'm going to do 1 drop. My gut says do 2. But I know it could go up pretty fast if I do 2. So we'll start there. I'm going to add 2 drops of water to that, because this is going to be highlighting, so we need it to go a little bit. Yeah, that wasn't enough. Definitely not. I don't think that was enough. We might want it a little bit more, but I guess I'll start here. I'll put it down on her stomach and see if I like it. And if I don't like it, then I'm going to make it go higher. Again, if your colors are really close together, like my base and my highlight here, you can see how close together these are. You can also see that this is warmer. Like, it's shifted toward more of a yellow or almost just almost a hint of red in there, and that's because we use the pale flesh, which has red and yellow in it. So if we continue to use pale flesh, we're going to go up warmer and warmer. Whereas if we just decide to use bleached linen, we're going to go up just to a pale green. So I'll have to decide what exactly my goal is with her. But since she's so early and we haven't done much to her, she has a lot of potential to go any way we want. And in that case, there's a lot of incentive for experimentation. So let's just put it on her tummy and see if we like the effect. I also need to kind of line around these other areas, like the tendril areas that are around her. So we'll just lay this down. This is a standard layering, so I'm just like taking it up very gradually. And this is what happens when you start with a first highlight that's really close to your main highlight. You don't see much of a difference. You may want to put on two coats on top of each other to build it up a little bit. But the other way, I'm gonna probably go in for the other way to do this, which is using much thinner layering, but building up a lot more layers. Actually, I'm going to get her in focus. I'm pretty sure at this point I am a little bit out, so hold on. There we go. Now we're in focus. Now you can see every little brush stroke. That's what we want. All right, so basic layering is just pretty much leaving a little bit of your underlying color around where there would be shadows. So around the edges of things, like where this little tendril overhangs, where the stomach comes down and kind of protrudes. There's going to be a shadow under there. You definitely want to keep your highlight round on the stomach. since her stomach is a very rounded form. And the more you accentuate that highlight, the more the stomach will look like it's protruding, and maybe she's, you know, going to have mushroom babies, if you want that. It all depends on what where your emphasis is. What's the story of this figure? You should always be thinking about that anyway. What's the story of the figure? Alrighty, let's see. I want brown liner for liner. I want, because I'm going with more earthy colors here, that's why I wouldn't choose a color like blue liner, even though I am planning to bring up like her hands blue and probably some blue detailing down on the base. I do want blue to be a player in this color scheme, but we're not there yet. So, and I don't want my shadows to be blue. I want a more earthy shadow for her because she's a mushroom. So brown it is. Brown liner, 9064. Alrighty. And yeah, I'm going to keep that fairly strong, I think. I'm going to go for a 4-to-1 on the liner right away. Remember, liners are a little more fluid, guys, so you don't need to add as much water to them to get them to a good consistency for doing these nice thin lines. And I would line around these tendrils before I started real serious work on the skin for one reason, and that is that when you've got a hard line, it's easier to, hard line next to it, it's easier to kind of see how well your layering is working out. For some reason, when you've got just a wilderness of the same color around it, with no hard edges or other finished areas, it can be very difficult to judge how good your layering is. But the minute you introduce that hard line, it seems to give you a reference point visually, and so you can assess better, like how high or dark your skin actually is. Another thing this will do is give you, as I just implied, it will give you a light dark contrast. So you think your skin is pale and pallid, and then you put this dark line in and you're like, oh, it really isn't that pale at all. Or, oh, now it looks even too pale. You know, it gives you, the more light and darks you have around an area that you're working on highlighting, the more perspective you will have on the relative value of the skin, because every color changes depending on what's next to it. This skin will now look a lot lighter if I put this dark lining around it. It also lets me work in kind of this, make this netting, this kind of like fungal clothing she's got on. It lets me make it really dark if I want to. I can take it, I was thinking about taking it dark for contrast, so. Let's see here. Gotta get in our, all of our clothing in her queenly mushroom gown. Just going to do just a starter thing, though. This is mostly clothes made of tendrils, so. And I won't do everything, but I do want to at least get the area around where I'm highlighting. So let's start down on her lower part and we'll take it up. This also, if you've got a model that's very complex or kind of in a muddle, this lets you have some time with your lining to figure out what is what. So if I wasn't sure what was skin or what was tendril here, doing the lining would let me kind of work that out as I'm kind of able to stop and calm down and just kind of like go slow and look at the model and figure out what things are. Because with a very complicated model that's a monster with a lot of organic pieces that may not be natural, sometimes it can be hard to figure it out. Like, what is that? Is it muscle? Is it bone? Is it hide? Is it, you know, what is it? Is it cloth? Is it leather? So that can definitely be difficult on some of these monsters with interesting organic designs. Oh, I missed a mold line. Oh, news! I'll have to go and correct that. Since I have my skin tone, it's actually a really good time to correct that. I tried to go over this model and remove the mold lines I could see. For some reason, I missed one on the big bare area there. So we'll do that now. Take care of it now. You've only got one layer of paint on the model. And I tend to use an X-Acto for this. You want to gently scrape. You don't want to create divots if you can help it. So use a real light pressure. And try to get long strips, like try to use a really even pressure to get strips to come up instead of little chunks. If your little chunks are coming up when you're trying to do this, then you are making divots in the sculpt probably. And you can run your knife over it if you do that, just gently until you kind of buff them out. It just takes a little time. Then we can put a layer of paint over it to see if we have successfully gotten rid of it. After we blow off all of our excess there. Got a little bit of another extra one up here on the arm. Gonna just take that out. Sometimes it's really hard to spot the mold lines on these figures until you have paint on them. Especially with bones, you don't have that stage where you put the primer on and you spot all the mold lines that you missed. Instead, it's like the base coat, which is super annoying. But it is what it is. That might be the best reason to prime bones I've heard yet. So you can spot all the mold lines you missed in your first go over. There we go. So I don't keep my my main working knife, I don't keep it very sharp, which lets me do kind of like this fast scraping, which doesn't create divots in the plastic. Yeah, I just missed a lot. I was probably working fast when I was trying to prep her. There we go. Just want to make sure she's all good. And now is a good time, before we get all into this awesome highlighting, to make sure that even the little, like I got most of this mold line, I just missed a tiny bit. But yeah, especially, it's hard because sometimes, depending on your light sourcing, like if you have one light, this is why I use 2 lights at my desk, and even then I miss things. But when you only have one light, it's easy to miss mold lines because you'll be looking at the model from one angle and your light will be illuminating it from one angle. And if you turn the model to another angle, you may suddenly see a mold line you missed. So when you are working that way, if you only have one light at your desk, make sure you turn the model every which way and kind of look at it in different angles of light so that you can spot all these things. There we go. I think she's Bones Black. I don't have her full card, but she has the black card. Yeah, black. So black is easy to scrape like this. It's nice for that. It's a harder plastic. So, I can still do this on regular bones. It's just a little harder because it's a softer material. All right. There we go. We have remedied our initial lack of... pardon me, I got a little particle. You can always take a damp brush when you see little particles of plastic and just get them off. This is why the crappy mixing brush also gets used for that, because it's a generally good tool for that. Oh, I see a little burl of plastic that I totally did not finish scraping off. Come on. If it's still attached to the model, the brush won't be good enough. Then you have to bring in the knife. She gets the knife. All right. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, I think I put just slightly more green in this morning than I did before, but that's fine. Because we're going to be highlighting all of this, it's not as big a deal. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going over right now, even if this green is just a little bit darker, it won't matter because we're going to be highlighting over it. Close enough. This is where I always think that people like maybe overthink their color mixing a little bit. Hello, Lobo. With many emoticons, many emojis. Lobo of the emojis. All right, back to lining. And I think, yeah, I think I'm going to keep that dark. I think I'm going to keep my lining dark. This is, of course, as always, lining is your best practice for freehand and fine details. Because it's relatively simple is why I say it's good practice. Even with intricate lines like this, you have a lot of room to kind of blurf up and correct. But the big key thing is just getting practice doing these little lines before you have to do them on a tiny buckle or an eyeball or a tiny strand of hair or any little fine detail. And since these are so organic, these strands, you don't have to be really precise. You can be a little messy, you're fine. Because it's organic matter, so. Let's see here. But yeah, I'm thinking about making these very dark. And so I'm thinking just kind of in my head, I'm rolling around ideas. And I'll probably change my ideas as I get the skin lighter. Because, and for a big back of the vine area there, you can just go dark on that. There we go. Yay! And there we've got, yeah, this gets a little complex in here. But I think we've got a skin cutout area right there, so. Again, you don't have to be perfect with this. You're going to be going back in and highlighting the skin. So don't sweat it if you get a little blurfy on it and maybe you get outside of the lines. You're going to be painting over it anyway. Oh, and I missed part of her butt there. Oh, noes. And I might have missed. No, I got the butt back there. I did miss a couple of parts on our initial foray, though. Hello, sibling. You're up way too late. Early. Well, that means you get to tune in, so it's cool. How have you been? We are painting a fungal queen, obviously. And I am touching up all the parts that I didn't quite get the first time. There we are. Good. It is kind of a bummer that I glued her cap on. I could pop it off. Because I could see where it might get a little hard to hit her hair, but it's not too bad. Like, that's why I glued it on in the first place. I was just like, it's not too bad up there. And since it's going to be in shadow from the cap, all this stuff up here is going to be dark anyway. You can see how deep in shadow it is because you can hardly see it. So you really don't need to worry about highlighting that other than like a little bit of the hair that hangs down that you can kind of see. You want to put a little bit of a highlight on that, but it's not a big deal. Blurk because of work. Yep, I hear you. I had a vacation and I feel like I need another one. Alright, so this side of her. And she has an ear over here, and I think I see an ear over here, but it's a bit obscured. Do the best you can. If you really can't see details on a model, just kind of give it your best shot and decide what something is. You might be wrong, but who cares? Like, will anybody really look at the side of her head there and say, oh, that shouldn't be an ear? Just do your best guess. You can always look online and see if somebody else's paint job shows you what something is. That's always a good idea. Or look at the original sculpt. Like if you're working on a model that was sculpted in green, sometimes the company will have the green up on the site, and you'll be able to see the details a lot clearer on the green. But yeah, looking at other people's paint jobs, I mean, you'll definitely see where they made mistakes too, but, you know, like I said, who cares? Because every once in a while, you'll be like, oh, okay, so that's an ear. And then you look and you go, hey, wait, that's a belt pouch. And they painted it like skin or something like that. And, it's not a big deal. I'm going to kind of flood this area with a little bit of a wash because her hair comes down there. It's pretty thick and tendrily. I do want to make the hair a contrasting color. More and more I'm leaning toward the blue that I'm thinking of using as an accent on this, but I may actually just go white with it. If I decide that the tendrils are very dark and I want contrast. But I haven't yet decided. This is where I like to leave the model open to question. Because then with something like this, where it's a monster, I feel like if it develops organically, it's more enjoyable to me. And by develop organically, I mean I just kind of make decisions as I paint it, depending on what things look like. Well, she is a mushroom queen, so, she is popping out little mushroom men, one assumes. But she has a tummy because a sculptor decided she needed a tummy. If Rainbow Sculptor was on right now, yeah, and Inara has a good point too. Alter Ego, sexy figures sell better. We are conscious of that. You could just as easily say, why does she have any clothes at all? She's a mushroom. She's fungus. But she's probably just aping, like kind of making her form to look like things that, other beings. You can make all sorts of stories about that. The answer is, why does she have a tummy? Why do you think she has a tummy? Valid. Hey, Fido. Looking at other people's paint jobs sometimes make me go at you too. Like there's ooh, that's inspiring, and then ooh, that's depressing. But it's seldom depressing for me these days. I don't know. I was never one to look at a paint job and get depressed because I knew that eventually if I was willing to work for it, I could get there. And that's really it. It's all mindset there. But I do definitely look at paint jobs and go, yuck, what was that painter thinking? I have those moments. And mostly it's not even that it's a weird paint job, it's a bad paint job. It's usually a very good paint job, but it's just got a color combo that doesn't sit right with Anne's aesthetic. And so I'm like, ew. So yeah. But never get depressed, guys, because, the answer is, are you willing to, work to become a better painter? And, if you are, then guess what? You can get to that level. All it takes is time. Time and caring about it. You'll get better as you paint, just as you paint. And at that point, if you're painting a lot already, just take a little time here and there to work on more advanced techniques. And you will gradually get there. You will stun yourself at how good you will get. But it does require, and if you game paint a lot or army paint a lot, that doesn't mean you can't get better. It just means, like I said, you take a moment here and a moment there to just work on one part of the model that you're working on. So, if you're painting a monster, maybe you speed paint everything except, the face, and then you try to do a better job on it. Just practice techniques that will give you the paint jobs that, get you to the level of paint job that you aspire to. And if you don't aspire to be anything better than a gaming painter, then awesome. That's cool. If you want to just put out awesome monsters for your D&D table, rock it all. One of my biggest complaints about myself is that it's very hard for me to just paint a simple model for a game. Just because I know too much now. It's hard to unwire myself. Time in joining Anne's Patreon. It's plug time. Good morning, Basement Forge. Kuroniko with the plug. I've been trying to wait to plug it till later in the show, Kuroniko. But since you said it, hey, I have a Patreon, everybody. And a lot of you are already patrons, and thank you. I appreciate it, obviously. It keeps me in groceries and contributes to my puppy fund. And my new puppy fund. And so it's patreon.com/paintingbig. I do a lot of kind of targeted videos that are a little bit more, well, obviously I can stay more on topic than I can here on the stream. On occasion, I also do a little bit more advanced stuff on there than I do on the stream here. And I also do PDFs for the $5 tier on all of the MSP colors. So if you're a Reaper Paint fan and you want to know more about using it, what it's good for, what the colors are good for, getting the most out of it, $5 tier is your baby. And yeah, thank you, sibling. Thank you. Yes, you can always go back and add more to your model, even if you think you are done. But beware of too much of that, basement. I do believe that there is only so much you can learn from any one model. And going back and endlessly correcting a model won't actually teach you more. You'd learn more if you just started a new project, is what I believe. So I try to tell people like that fine-tuning a model is fine. But there will come a point where it's like, okay, but I think I'm going to move on and just, do these techniques on a new model. And sometimes you'll learn a bit more there. And I don't buy that either, Daffodweir. I think that is actually, people always like say that, and to some point it's true. And as an artist and a writer, I've seen this from both sides, right? I mean, I am the woman who's now putting final edits on my first book 10 years after I wrote the first draft. So I am that person. And it is better with every iteration. But you get diminishing returns. You definitely get diminishing returns. And I think the point is understanding that when you start getting those diminishing returns, it's done. Anything further than that will muck it up. So, and I think that's the hardest thing about fine-tuning or editing or whatever you're working on creatively, is just understanding when you've hit that point. Like, coming to understand, like, no, really, it's pretty good. And I'm going to leave it there and move on to the next one. Yeah, right. Yeah, I had to get the shading better. Yeah, no, it totally, like, it totally is cool. Just be aware that, like, there's a limit. I just want to make sure folks know that there's definitely a limit. Don't feel like you have to work on it and keep working on the same project. Many times, if you spot something that you could have done better, if you really love the model, go back and do it. Like if it's your one of your big warjacks for your army, and you're just like, I love this model and I really want it to look better, absolutely go back and do that. Just beware of, like, I always bring up the I knew a guy who, and I usually bring up this example, but he essentially just kept painting the same mermaid figure year after year. And I was like, you realize that you're just redoing the same techniques because this model has nothing else to teach you. So he loved the model, so he wanted to paint like 3 iterations of it. But yeah. She's going to go white, Pendrake. Don't worry. Like, never. This is green horse syndrome. I talked about green horse syndrome in a past stream also. This model does not look anything like she's going to end up looking. Yeah, right, Inara. And even then, as I just brought up with the mermaid, there's, like, having a second copy of the figure can be a really cool thing, but I would advise you to wait for like a year and then repaint the figure instead of repainting the figure 3 times, like right in a row. Because if you wait a year, your painting will have improved through other projects, and then when you nail that model again, you're going to see a difference, right? The problem that I noticed with his painting was that he was maybe improving a tiny bit on skin blending because she had a lot of skin, but other than that, there wasn't a lot of elevation because there wasn't a lot of different stuff to do. So yes, Kuroniko, that's a very valuable friend. Oh no, distracting sorting paint. That's horrible. The paint sorting, like, attraction and the mini sorting attraction. Like, if you ever, like, sit down with your closet of minis and start to sort it and organize it, that can suck up days that you could have been actually painting models. How to waste time as a mini painter. We can do a whole series on that. We'll have infinite ideas. Okay, so now that I've got my lining done, and I'm not going to line the hands because I think I'm going to be fading them into like a dark blue. Oh, she's wearing a ring. Like a fungus ring or a regular ring. Cool! What is it a ring of, I wonder? Shooting stars, maybe. That would be cool. It would be neat to turning her into a monster. I can see why she's so popular because turning her into a monster, you have so many options. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my bleached linen. I'm going to transfer a blob of paint over to my next, 2 blobs of paint actually, over to my next well. And I'm going to add, I am going to try to add another drop of pale flesh, but I'm also going to add a drop of bleached linen. And we're going to go up with that. And since this is a lot less paint now in this well, these drops are going to have a big impact because they have a lot of white in them. So they're really going to shift the color light, which I want. I want to go light because I want to go very pale on her, and right now she's not. This is like a 3 or 4 on the grayscale. She is not even close. So I'm going to start bringing up her skin pretty fast. This was not fast enough, I decided. After I did the stomach, I'm like, yeah, no. So since we've added so much white to this, we need to add a lot more water. This is at least a 1-to-1 at this point, and it probably even needs more water because it's got so much white pigment in it. Yeah, that's a good lone goldfish. That's a really good project for COVID, right? Because then you had all the time indoors and you couldn't go out and have fun. So she's a mushroom bender. That's funny, sibling. Yeah, that's one thing you could, if you use that, the old demon princes and queens and stuff. Oh, dear me. I kind of scraped a little paint off there. I scuffed you, mushroom. What did I do? Must have hit her with something. I scuffed my mushroom. Luckily, this early in the game, that's not a big deal. Alright. I feel like I need a little bit more water in that. When you're doing skin layering, the way to get smooth skin tones is to thin your paint, thin your paint, thin your paint, and then thin your paint some more. But then you need to learn how to control the thinned paint, which is usually when people get frustrated. Because you must unload your brush. Must unload it. Lots of unloading. Let's see. I need to block in her eyes, I think. I'm gonna make her eyes pretty big. Always move the model around so that you can get a good angle with your brush. So don't contort your brush hand to try to hit everything. Just move the mini. And sometimes I have to move it so that I can see the details when they're really shallowly sculpted. And when they have very neutral expressions like this, it's easy to give that mouth a little tick up on the side to give her a smirk. I think that's good. Just trying to eyeball. I think I've got a little bit of mold line there. Hold on. Facial surgery coming right up. Yeah, there's been a lot of really good classic fantasy realms over there we go. I just had a little bit. There's a tiny bit of plastic flash up there that was just hanging on. Let me correct the mouth on the other side. I may decide to make her expression more neutral, but for now, I think we're okay. I do need to raise her cheekbone up a little. I always thought it was Zugtmoy. But if you want to, you know, you can pretty much say it any way you want to with those names. Alright, there. Her eye got a little bit low, and so I just painted a little bit of her cheekbone in. There we go. She looks imperious and smirky now. She's like, yes, you will all become my fungal slaves after my mushrooms grow through you. I don't want to be a fungal slave. Yeah. Well, you know. Gary Gygax, though, he's now legendary. He did ascend into the pantheon of gamerness. So we can't give Gary too much crap. If he hadn't sat down and decided this needed to be a thing, we wouldn't have this thing that we all love, so. So now it's coming up pale. And this isn't even as pale as it can get. It's still a little shiny and wet. But it's getting, now as this is closer, this is like the new mid-tone that I want. And my paint is not thin enough, and I can tell because I'm seeing brush strokes. But right now, I want to bring things up fast. So if this were me working on a competition piece, I would thin this paint to at least 1 to 2. So I would add at least 4 more drops of water. And I would proceed to spend a lot of time layering it up to be super, super smooth. Here on stream, I don't have as much time as I'd like. And we like to make progress on our figures. So less likely to do that here. So it does take a lot of time. A lot of layering, a lot of glazing. But we can get a pretty decent result doing some wet blending and glazing here. It's why I do a lot of glazing on this show, and it's should be kind of a cue to you guys, because glazing is one of the most useful things. Besides, Gary was a fellow Wisconsinite, so I have to totally support my fellow gaming nerdy Wisconsinites. Nerdy Wisconsinites unite. Even though I'm no longer like you, when I went back to my California roots. I'm still a Wisconsinite at heart. It is where I grew up. Raised a Midwesterner. Born a Californian, raised a Midwesterner. Thoroughly screwed up. Oh, and 17 years in there as a Texan. As an adopted Texan. Throw that all together. Technically, I lived a year on the East Coast too, but I don't think I absorbed much of it, so didn't absorb much of the East Coast vibe. So that's the one area that I there we go. So that's coming up much paler now, and I like that. That's it's not as pale as I'd like. So I'm going to actually, the stomach is going to be our test ground, guys. This is an easy way to figure out if you're going to, how much you want to bring up a skin tone and how it's going to look. Is pick one part of the model. You could pick, like, I often pick a leg, or a thigh, or, you know, just some larger skin area. Sometimes I'll do the face if it's just the face. But with a model like a lot of skin like this, and it's a monster, often I'll just pick one section and I'll paint it up, highlight it all the way up until I get to where I want it, and then I'll just do the rest of the figure. It saves you so much time if you decide to switch strides in midstream. So now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to carry 2 brushfuls over into a new well. I do this all the time. If you're building custom skin tones and you want them to go together, just grab a couple brushfuls from the previous well, pop it into a new well, and go up. And this time I am going to go all the way up with bleach linen, I think. There. That's going to bring it up very pale. Yeah, there we go. That's getting appropriately mushroomy. And then actually I'm going to build a final highlight. Yeah, monster control could work. I just thought shooting stars could be fun. Subterranean stars. Alright, so we don't need too much of a highlight. And at this point, I still have this color where I mixed this up on my fat mixing brush. So I'm honestly just going to use that mixed into this highlight. It'll tint it just a little bit with that color, and this is our final highlight. So now I've got essentially a pentad. There's our pentad. Those of you who watched my video last month on pentads will know what I mean. Oh, accidentally mixed a little bit more light into that. There we go. But obviously a triad is 3 colors and a pentad is 5. I've always felt that Master Series worked best in pentads, but triads made more sense when we put it out. But I myself tend to build pentads. So we warmed it up, yeah. So you can see we started colder, we went warmer, and now we're cooling off again as we go up. And I don't know if that's enough. That's probably almost definitely not enough water in this paint. I'm probably going to see brushstrokes right away. Well, yeah, definitely seeing brushstrokes. So you know you haven't thinned your paint enough when you can definitely see brushstrokes. But again, if you're in a hurry, you can always just take a little bit of your previous color and kind of blend them together. So that's different. That's why I say wet blending is not like necessary, but it's a very useful tool to have in your toolbox because it lets you get these fast blends. They're not perfect. Now let's try this ultra high highlight. Need a little bit more on my brush. And get it all the way up. And now now the question is, how light we want this area to look is going to be dependent by how much surface we cover with these really pale colors. Looks a lot lighter on camera than it is in person. So if you want her to be really pale, then you need to bring in a lot of pale highlight all over so that the majority of the skin is really pallid. I think she's like just gonna have like little baby mushrooms, that's all. So I'm kind of glazing with one of these lighter colors now to bring these darker areas a little bit more up. And the nice thing about having all 5 colors open at once is that you can constantly be grabbing. Like if you need more shadow underneath that belly to make it stand out, then you can grab it. You've got it open. It's set. So you can constantly be working. Like now we're set. We've got our liner color. We've got our pentad. We can rock on this skin at this point. Because we have all the colors we need. They could be a little thinner, but I'm gonna work with them at this consistency for now. If you want your paint to be, if you want your skin tones to be really smooth though, you need to thin your paint like crazy. More than I am here. I can smooth this out after with some glazing, but... Alright, let's see here. So when the leg lifts, it's gonna get a higher highlight. So start by blocking out. She starts to kind of have a human leg and then it just spreads out into a stalk. So you can see my brush strokes here. You can see what I mean when I say that my paint is too thick. So I'm not getting an even layer. And I will have to bring in my next lowest shadow to kind of blend this in. Actually, I think I'm going to add just a drop of water to everybody here. And that way, will come in even finer. And because these paint puddles are pretty big at this point, because I've added so much water, they're gonna stay at the right consistency for a long time. Probably for the rest of the stream after I add this, because it's we only have another 35-40 minutes. I'm gonna add more water to this. Lots of water. So these are even more watered down than 1-to-1 at this point. Yeah, I want to take her skin really pale, Jabberwock. I mean, the rest of her is going to be all sorts of colors, but the basis of the skin is going to be pallid because mushroom. Other than, you know, given some mushrooms are more colorful, but the subterranean kind tend to be very, very pale. We're kind of basing it on the artwork from the Monster Manual as far as the colors, the base colors used, but the other thing I want to do is I think I want to take her more pale as she gets more up on herself, and like as her leg comes down toward this outgrowth of like massive fungus material and or stalagmites, then I'll let it get darker. I'll darken it down to show that she's transitioning or growing out of this mass. And maybe she'll continue to grow and change until she can step right out of this massive mushroom. Who knows? And now we've got a little bit thinner paint. It's a little bit, I can still see brush strokes, but they're a little bit more subtle, a little bit more blendable. But as you start working with thinner paint, you have to unload your brush more, or you're going to get a lot of puddles. And it's going to fight you and create streakiness, which I have a little bit going on here. You can see it. It's only because I have so much practice, Rackham. Like, if it's taking you 12 years, I thought I read it 12 hours. If it's taking you a long time, then it's what it's worth doing is sitting down and like really working with your paint consistency and experimenting, because the understanding of how thin or how thick you need to have your paint and unloading your brush properly so that you can control that paint, that is what teleports you to like levels of blending, you know, being able to do blending, being able to do like, you know, tight transitions and stuff like that. I think it's really the first step in highlighting, really getting good highlights and shadows is paint consistency. And then once you've got that, then you work on other things like, you know, your brush control so you can hit fine details, and probably also like imagining lighting. So since you're able to blend your transitions, then you work on lighting to make sure your transitions are in the right places. But I mean, remember, I've got over 30 years experience doing this stuff. Yeah, but if I whipped out my dry brushed Chaos Hound from 30 years ago, you'd be like, oh, she painted like me, you know? Now, and it only took me this long. I would say that most of the improvement that I experienced was done in only 6 months. When I made up my mind that I wanted to enter Golden Demon, which is Games Workshop's national level painting competition, and I made up my mind that I wanted to be competitive at it. Then I buckled down and I studied paint consistency, and I worked on my control, and I, you know, got a group of friends who would help me critique, who were good painters. I'll tell you one thing, guys. If you may think that a lot of the top level painters aren't very approachable, but if you tell them, hey, I want to get to your level, like I'm really want to learn to paint well, and I'm willing to put the time in, we will help you. Like, a lot of people have coaching levels, and honestly, in our coaching levels, we dream of getting somebody like that. Like, we love it when we have Patreons and we have coaching, or we just offer coaching separate from a Patreon. Something that I'm considering doing. We love to coach people who really honestly want to get better, because it doesn't take that long, and it can be so rewarding. Like, it just takes a commitment. It just takes like, yeah, I want to do this. I'm going to try it. I'm going to make an effort. And when you already enjoy painting, it's not even that much work. Hello, Army of Heroes. Happy birthday. Yeah, my birthday's coming as well, and I need to decide what I want. Yeah. Yep, Hecatina's got it. Classes are worth it. Now that we're finally emerging from the pandemic, I'm hoping to get some seminars scheduled. Kind of need to figure out like where to do it. Finding a place is the thing. So see, I'm like letting this leg kind of taper off here, because I know that I'm probably going to want to suggest that, you know, she's obviously kind of growing, or she's like, maybe she can just pop up out of any fungal mass. Maybe that's one of her powers, but she's definitely coming up out of this mass of fungus. And so for me, I want to leave this kind of a neutral area because whatever color I decide to go here, I'll probably work it into her leg color to show that she's emanating out of that. But yeah, classes are worth it. Like, I do know some people who took classes that were like way above their level that didn't get as much out of it and wasn't as rewarding for them. So I do caution you against that. Like, do be realistic in your assessment. And if you are like somewhere between beginner and intermediate level painter, you know, then I would say don't waste your money on like a, you know, a really high level class, because those are easily, you know, they're hundreds of dollars to do like a day or weekend with one of the best painters in the world typically. But, you know, sometimes those painters will do more of a beginner class. Like Lovejoy, I think, does airbrush seminars and stuff that are more geared toward people who are just trying to learn it. Some advanced painters really enjoy teaching beginners, like I do, or intermediate painters. And some of them prefer to teach more advanced students. So it just depends on the instructor. Alrighty. So now we're coming up real pale, yeah. I'm liking that pallid look. It actually is a little bit darker in person. It's a little more complex. Sometimes the camera likes to bleach out stuff. If I put white and black in the frame, often it helps. But yeah, you get kind of the idea. Oh yeah. Yeah, whole family. I mean, Aaron's great. Aaron is fantastic. He's just a great guy. and he enjoys just teaching. Like, he enjoys helping people like enjoy the hobby better, you know, to whatever level they want to. So Dogfather, it's just well, one never age yourself out of anything, because I mean, I'm getting older, but I'm still determined to do all sorts of new things in life. I mean, you don't need as much time as you think. You really don't. If you spent 20 minutes a day honestly working on becoming better, like, and you got a good source of feedback too, because obviously if you're frustrated with something, you want to ask. Although you can always bring your questions here. Like, if you're trying layering and you're running into a problem, you can always ask me. But it's really, if you could find 20 minutes a day, that's if you like have a painting area set up. If you don't have a painting area set up, it might take you 30 or 40 minutes a day, because you'll need to set up and break down. But honestly, my minimum time, and everybody's minimum time is different. Like, half an hour is about my minimum to sit down and seriously get in the zone. And I do better if I have an hour. But you can improve with very little time. Let's bring this leg in. See, now that I've got my paint more or less dialed in, even though it's still a little thick, but I'm moving fast, so I want it a little thicker. Yeah, I did a pruning, Rackham. Before I moved out here to California, I pretty much gave away and sold a lot of my models. So I just pretty much looked through my collection, because there's definitely, like, I like them all still. But the question for me these days is, can I see myself sitting down to paint this? Like, can I honestly see myself sitting down to paint this and being excited about it? Or am I just holding on to this model because I've had it for so long? You know, I've gotten a lot better about being honest with myself there and about the amount of time that I have. So I pruned my miniatures collection down a bit. And hey, my friends benefited from it because they got some really cool models. And so now I feel like I'm actually manageable. Like, I feel like I could actually paint a lot of what I have. But then again, I'm also not running D&D or stuff where you need to have a lot of different models, right? So yeah, I did like 4 or 5 Kickstarters last year, Pethis. And so this year I'm cold turkey. It'd have to be it'd have to hit all of my, like, oh my god, I need this and senses to make me going on a Kickstarter right now. Because I've got so much beautiful stuff from this past year. So much beautiful stuff. And so I really need to work on that stuff. So every once in a while, guys, notice I'm going back, kind of tuning the stomach. As I get these legs mapped in, I may decide I want the stomach a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, or I may notice that I wasn't quite as smooth as I needed to be. Having all these colors open And right here at my fingertips means that I can just sit and futz around and organically just work on all the skin back and forth until I get it to a point where I really like it. Oh yeah, Reaper's good. See, I know I can paint them, Pethis, but then it's like, I have to spend the time to paint them. And I'm a very slow painter. Like, you guys see me using a lot of my speed tricks here on stream. So I look like I paint faster than I do. And even here, I think I'm pretty slow. But yeah, I am a slow painter, so it takes me a long time. And I'm well aware of this. That's why I'm kind of like, I need to stop on the Kickstarters until I paint some of this beautiful, like these limbo models that I have, and these wonderful like Big Child like Camelot models that I got, and the muses, and there's just so many beautiful things that I got, and all my Ignis art busts, and yeah, I've got a lot of beautiful stuff. And so what helps is that I actually do my own stream on Thursdays, and we've played some D&D in the past, but I've been painting lately, and it is actually helping me make a lot of progress on my personal project right now, my Templar. So she's coming along really, really well. And it's mostly because, I get to hang out with you guys and chat while I paint with her. It's kind of like having my own personal like paint club, virtual paint club with you guys on Thursdays. And that's on my own channel. That's twitch.tv/paintingbig. We've done a variety of stuff on there, but although now I'm back to working on the halfling too, so maybe we'll paint her a little. Haven't decided. It's Anne's potluck channel. Show up and it'll be something. Thank you. Thanks, Quindy. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, the big wolf rider is next. Like, she's over there. She is waiting. She's like, hello. But I need to finish another competition level model first, so halfling is kind of where it's at right now. She's almost done. Halfling is so close. My halfling rogue assassin that I was working on. So I'm trying to like get this all smoothed out. This area is a little rough, maybe the cast, but I'm kind of blocking it in and not trying to blend it right away, just to kind of get things separated out, and then I can do some wet blends, and that's fine. Like blocking stuff in so you can see it, and then coming back, and she doesn't really have anatomy anyway. She's a fungus. So like what anatomy you can see, you can do, but don't like try to like overthink it. Like if she doesn't seem to have collarbones, she probably doesn't. She's a mushroom. But yeah, the wolf rider is definitely waiting. She's waiting for primer right now. I'm trying to figure out how I want to primer. I think she probably should be a white primed figure, because she's going to have a lot of light colors on her. There we go. So I'm just like kind of like trying to figure out here whether I'm going to suggest some collarbones there. The tendons of the neck come down and connect to the collarbones, so you kind of can figure out where they are by just following the anatomy. We're getting there. Cool, Grim. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it ages well because of the droppers. And because of the thinner consistency of the base. I'm glad you love it. Like, that always, I think I'm gonna pretty much feel that Master Series is like my lasting legacy to the painting community. As long as Reaper decides not to totally, cancel it and reissue new. But even then, like, all the new colors, even if they did that, even if they canceled MSP and they put out a brand new paint line that Sadie did, I think the formulations would still be very similar to what all the groundwork that I've laid over the years. And so I still feel like it would be a little bit of Anne legacy in there. But hopefully Master Series, like, continues to do well and get new fans. And, you know, the best thing you can do is tell people that you love the paint line and tell them, and then show them why you love it. You know, tell them and show them why. All right, I'm just kind of wet blending in here a little bit since I don't like. I blocked in the stark lines for the breasts, but I didn't want them to be that stark, so now I'm blending in a little bit of a darker shadow so I can bring it back up. We're just kind of, again, going back and forth here. When you're doing pale skin tones, you're usually going to do a fair amount of back and forth. Good. Joining in the call out. Not me, Rackham. I had a friend get really ill from that, actually, or they thought it was probably that. So after that, I trained myself never to lick my brushes. And honestly, now it's just a habit for me to point my brushes with my hand. So it's like, rinse it out. I just pull it right here, so I'm holding it like this, and I just pull it right through while I'm turning it. And it comes up with a great point, so I really can't, you know, really don't notice. Like, and I used to be like a brush licker from an early age, really, so. See, puddles there. We do not want the puddles. Too much puddling. So I'm kind of trying to spread it out over the surface of the leg here. Because I have too much paint on my brush, and that will give you puddles and streaks. Puddles and streaks, oh my. Yeah. Using hands is just easy. Good, Kaz. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just got to a point now. If my brush even goes, like, there are still times, like, there's a rare time where the brush will approach my mouth, like where some I'll be doing something and it must be a trigger that I haven't isolated or something, but it'll feel so weird, and I'll be like, whoa, what am I doing? What did I almost do? Yeah, I don't know. It's just I got in that habit, and like I used to kind of use my fingertips, and I guess it just is natural because I can switch from this to this so easily. So at this point I don't even think about it. I just do it. And the nice thing about using the hand squeeze too is that the brush still stays, like, it still keeps some liquid in it, which you want. You want a little bit of you don't want a totally dry brush. When you reload it with paint, you actually want a little bit of water in it. So, in my experience. So that helps with that as well. Let's just bring up this color. And I'm going to look a little streaky here. I can always use glazes to iron it out. This is not perfect layering. My paint is still a little bit too thick to get a perfect blend just out the gate. Although it's close on this color. And I'm getting a little streaky on the front of that leg. If you see streaks, just stop, let it dry, go back in. Block out your streaks. Yeah, I'm kind of in the blending zen. But I can stop it and stretch soon. Definitely colder here in the last couple days. Yeah, I have my window mostly closed. It's like the last gasp of springtime. There we go. I I have fresh cantaloupe to eat with my lunch. I love cantaloupe. What's your favorite fruit, you guys? Like when like summer hits and you like want a really fresh sweet treat, like what's your favorite fruit? I love cantaloupe and red grapes. And green grapes, but I usually buy red. Peaches, easily. Honeydew. Okay, I don't think I've tried honeydew recently. Raspberries, okay. Watermelon. Oh, pineapple. Yeah, Salty, I'm with you. Red grapes always. Red grape club, Quindy. Olives, strawberries. Yeah, berries, yep. Nectarine. Ice cold seedless. I'm with you on the ice cold. I love my grapes cold, Val. Totally. Oh, mango. Yum. I have frozen mango cut up in my oatmeal in the morning. Pineapple, plums. Okay. I'm going to give plums another chance. I never got into raspberries, or blackberries, but I love raspberries. Juicy Niagara peaches. Wow. Okay, now I'm hungry. Graham, you're funny. Chocolate oranges. Hey, David and I made homemade chocolate covered oranges last month. It was really good, and it was really easy. You need a really slightly tart or tangy orange, I think, is a little better than super sweet oranges. We were using dark chocolate. We used 70% and melted it in a double boiler. But it was super tasty. We did strawberries too at the same time, but the oranges were actually the winner. Like strawberries were okay, but the oranges were like to die for. Yeah, kiwi can be really good. I tend to like kiwi sliced up in fruit salad with other things. Like I find that that's a fruit that I really enjoy mixed in. Now that my diet permits fresh fruit again, now that I'm low carb but not keto, I want to experiment with some fruit salads this summer. I'm really jealous of everybody that like these people here, like there's citrus trees everywhere. So like when I see a yard where people are like growing like lemons and limes and oranges and plums and like there's just so many, like you can grow nectarines and tangerines and there's so many like fruit trees around here. If David and I ever get a house, I totally want to plant some strawberries and plant all sorts of different stuff. I'll be into gardening like you, Kerniko. Watermelon and vodka, Jabberwocky. I'm not a watermelon fan. That's what David loves it, but I don't. It's not, I don't know. It's just like, it's not quite there for me. Yeah, I love lemons. I use lemons in cooking all the time, and I make fresh, my homemade dressing that we always keep on hand is lemon vinaigrette. It's so good. And it's so easy to make. Oh yeah, blackout. Alter Eco blackout. Yes. The regular blackout, and then they now have mint blackout. It's really like one square only has like 1 gram of carbs. So if you're in keto but you still want chocolate, it is really, really dark though. It's like a 90%. But if you're off of a lot of sugar, it starts to taste actually sweet. And the mint actually tastes sweeter than the other kind. Yeah, Rainier Cherries are out right now here in California, Quindy. So they're good. They're orange. I'm thrown off by their color. A whole lemon with salt. Wow, basement. Yeah, so we had strawberries, like, we had a strawberry farm near us when I was a kid, and we would go and pick strawberries. You don't really need, like, too many plants to get a decent, like, haul, so. And strawberries do amazingly here in California. Like, when we drove south on our vacation last weekend, like, we saw so many, like, strawberries and, like, strawberry stands on the side of the road. They're so good when you can get them fresh. So, yeah, totally planning that. Graham, you're funny. Oh, Rainier Cherries are sweet. I'll have to give them a chance. I was thrown off by the color. Yeah, maybe I'll do my stretches after stream today, guys. I don't want to stop. Yeah, whoever said I was in the blending zone was totally right. Like, I'm totally in the Zen blend. And I did my exercises before stream, so I'm doing pretty good on the back pain, and everything is more or less gone. Like sometimes I'll get a sore back if I'm like sitting on a like uneven surface or something without a lot of support for a while. But in general, my yoga seems to have fixed my back issues. Which, considering I have so many friends who are getting back surgery, is a relief to me. I really didn't want to go there. Hey, Shadow Raven, enjoy your lunch. I hope we've made you hungry for fruit. Pomelo, huh? Yeah, I'm always looking for like lower carb. Like I try to have fruits, like the grapes have a lot of water in them, and so does the cantaloupe. So they actually are fairly low carb for the amount that I eat. Oh, the pick your own fruit farm. Yeah. Ideally, like I would have a yard with a whole bunch of like fruit in it. Nico. I wouldn't mind growing my own cucumbers and stuff too. I like cucumbers. Maybe some zucchini to grill in the summer. Before now, I would have said like, oh, I'd never use it all. But now we've gotten into such the habit of cooking with COVID that I feel like we go through a lot of produce every week. My grandma always had a really big garden they had a farm. They did beef cattle. And she always had this big garden that had all sorts of stuff. She grew some sweet corn. Like half of it was sweet corn, and then she did all sorts of stuff in the other half. So I guess my little kid brain absorbed that and has always kind of envied it. And they had an apple orchard, a small orchard of apples on the property as well. Apple trees also grow here. California is just really good for growing stuff. So I'm just fine-tuning here, guys. I'm hitting some of the sides now. Is the mini nervous with all this talk of eating produce? Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, have fun, Inara. That sounds awesome. Say 6 more weeks of growing until we get $2 worth of lettuce. I know, right? Rackham, I'm totally... Hey, Gamer Room. We're talking about growing food. So like we're talking about gardening and for fruit and stuff, because we got on a fruit topic because I love fresh fruit, and I have cantaloupe in the fridge and I can't wait to break into it at lunch. But I feel like that, Rackham, because I've got these little Thai basil plants that I planted, and a little dill, and my little curry tree over here in pots on my windowsill with a grow light. And it feels like the Thai curry is finally taking off. It's like it'll be 4 months before I can even have one sprig of Thai curry, or Thai basil, rather. Sorry. Oh, mushrooms. Yeah, yummy. So, okay, Gamer Room, what's your favorite fruit? Because that we were asking what their favorite fruit was a little bit ago. Like, in the summer when it's hot, like, what fruit is your favorite fruit? Oh, mushrooms. Yeah. Yes. Mushrooms are delicious. We are making the mini nervous. She's gearing up. Like I'm gonna have to paint a frown on her face instead of the smirk. Oh, strawberries. Yeah. And it's strawberry season. They're so tasty. The chest area here is still hard to kind of figure out what I want to do. There. When it's a small area, it can be harder to blend. So you kind of have to work for it a little bit more. And since I'm trying to kind of do it fast too, and I'm not like taking my time, that can be fraught with peril. So I'm going to actually blend that in. I don't like that gap there, so time to glaze over it. Eventually I'll get this area to where I really like it. But until then, it's like glazing, knock it down, bring it back up, glaze again. Because it's so pale, and but it can also, if you go too dark with the shadows, you can lose a lot. So trying to just kind of tune it so that it looks as nice as the stomach and the legs are. Ooh, yeah. I like hot. I actually miss hot. I am jealous of you, Inara. Oh, Quindy. Yeah, that is pretty miserable. Like, at least here when it gets to, like, 88 or 90. It's fairly dry. So it's actually a nice dry heat. Don't have to deal with it being so humid. So now I'm using little brush strokes, little tuning. That's a little better. Kind of gonna block out this shadow because I just decided I don't like it. When you're doing tiny detail areas like faces and like, little cutout for décolletage as they call it, and little bits of skin here and there, just really delicate brush strokes, very small amount of paint on your brush. Just take your time. When you quickie it, chances are you're gonna just like hate it. You're just increasing the chance something goes wrong at that point. Oh, you're Phoenix? You're from Phoenix? Yeah. Yeah, my parents have a house in Arizona, but they drive north in April every year. Go back up to Wisconsin where I grew up. Though they're about to sell, and this is so weird, some of you guys who are older probably totally get it, but my parents are about to sell the house that I grew up in. And the house they've like owned for like over 40 years. And they're downsizing to a new condo. But it's just so weird. To going home will no longer be going home, Yeah, right. Isn't it weird? It's just like, and it's not like, our house was really unique or anything, but it's the house where you have, like, you remember, like, growing up. I always think it's even worse if it is actually a special house. Like my ex, who his family have a heritage house on Cape Cod where his grandpa built it by hand, and it's in the in the heritage section of the town. It's a really cool house. I always felt it was like really. They'll probably when his kids just decide when one of them decides not to live in it, they'll probably just sell it. And I always thought that was a shame because you got something like that has so much history. But I guess, maybe the money's worth more. So I think that would be worse, though, to have to give up a house like that. Somebody will love it, though. So the face is going to be delicate work, and I don't know if I want to start it now. Yeah, I'm in an apartment now after, like, living in houses for almost 20 years, so it is weird. Oh no, Inara. I'm sorry. Wait, are you from Pompeii? She's like, I'm not that old, Anne. Thanks. Still, that's like bummer. That's like super bummer. When your house was eaten by a volcano, that adds another level. That is next level. Gonna start a little bit here, just mapping in the planes on the face here. Not going really, really in depth or finely blended, just kind of hitting all the spots. Her face here is under a shadow, so, I could, by all rights, I could make her face darker. But that kind of defeats the purpose, since faces you want to attract attention to them. So I am going to make it pallid and see how that sits when I put it on the tabletop. See if it makes sense. Like kind of hold it out at arm's length and see if it'll work. I think there's enough light in most environments that it should carry. But normally a big overhanging top like this can be trouble because it can really shadow the face and the expression of the figure. The way around that is you can make her face very in shadow, very menacing. Like we could really shade everything up here, like black it all out and just have her eyes glowing. Like that's one thing we could do here. And if I don't like it, yes, we're both teaching at ReaperCon Grim. We're going and we're teaching. We are on the schedule. No, ReaperCon is go. It is go, Rackham. We will also have, I was told originally, and this may or may not be a thing, you want to check always, because things can change with ReaperCon, but we are going to have some digital content as well. virtual content, I should say. But yeah, it's in person. Like, David and I are psyched to have our first in-person con in, God, 2 years probably. We've missed cons. All right, so we're just kind of blocking in again. We're getting her highlights in here, and like I said, it is tempting to go dark with everything up here, like to black everything out, like honestly paint it black or very dark brown, and then just like have it kind of slowly emerge. And I may think about that and make the eyes just like go white, blue, white. So yeah, that's why there's digital content, is because we understand that a lot of countries still have travel restrictions, and probably still will by the end of the summer. I mean, we hope that there's a lot of progress, but you just never know. And so I think it's nice to offer some digital content anyway. It might get more people to come to ReaperCon in the long run if they can try it out online and then decide they'd really like to meet everybody in person. But yes, David and I are going. I think he's teaching OSL. He's teaching OSL in a new highlighting and shading class. More advanced highlighting and shading class, I think. And I don't know, I'm teaching stuff. I'm teaching stuff. I always submit classes and then I forget what I've submitted, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should work on that. Pretty sure one of them is my new color theory class, though. So we're working on the face. Working on it a little bit. I probably want to have that side be more in shadow, because the hat definitely comes down more on this side. So I'm going to actually take my original dark green color and glaze it over the top of this side of her face. Make it a little darker on that side, a little lighter on the other side. Like that. You can see how that would be a thing, because the cap tilts. She has it at a rakish angle. Oh, yeah. The flying, it's just a long flight, Murray. Like, I've gone to the UK a few times, and it's just really long. So just remember to get up and stretch, like every hour and a half, 2 hours, assuming you don't have turbulence at the time. But they've been pretty smooth flights. A lot of people do them overnight, do an overnight flight, but I guess it doesn't make sense if you're coming to the States to do that. It more makes sense that when you're going back to Europe. But I have trouble sleeping on planes, so that's usually a bad call for me. Alrighty. I think we're really... We did a lot. We got a lot of progress on the pale skin tones. I do really think I'm going to fade her arms down to really dark at the hands, though. And that'll also make that little ring stand out, too, if we do it like gold or silver. Could always swim. Oh, no. Yeah, have fun, Rackham. I mean, at a meeting, I guess. It's not really fun. But have fun with the rest of your day. Yeah, understood, Grim. It's alright. ReaperCon ain't going anywhere. There'll be another one. Just gives you more time to save for the next one. Alrighty, so let's at least block in our shoulders with a little bit of lighter paint while we have a little bit of, well, we're almost to the end. Yeah, she is somewhat disturbing, Grim. You are correct. The queen of fungus. She should be. She's a monster. And she's a fungus monster. I mean, we all love to eat mushrooms, but do we really want to talk to one? Probably not if she wants to turn us into food for her babies. So just getting in some of this, and I think I'm going to start fading it there. So we'll leave that there. And you'll see this arm will be easier because it's straighter. And again, she's not like, it's not like she's got a lot of muscle mass. She's a fungus. So you can suggest some human anatomy, but it's not like super important to get it right on this one. Because fungus. A fungus among us. And we're about ready to wrap it up, but I'm going to keep going just a little bit here. But I'm pretty happy how the pale skin is looking. Still debating that dramatic lighting effect. I'm just not sure if it'll carry. I don't know. I'll keep thinking about it for next week. And I'm just going to keep this, bring this in. But yeah, she's moving now. This model is now moving. I was like really lost on her for the first stream. Really had to think about it, what I wanted to do, and how it was going to come together. But usually a little bit of thought, and you can figure it out. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of California, actually. We're doing really well for the vaccination progress. We're supposed to open up, the state is supposed to open up on the 14th, so, and I think it'll be doable. There, just, uh-oh, dropping the model. No! Realized I didn't get this really brought up at all. But we'll start getting ready to raid somebody because I have to go and do my walk. Get my lunch ready. But I hope you all had a good time today working on Miss Disturbing Fungus Queen. And we covered a little bit about layering, wet blending, glazing. We covered kind of building a triad of colors for a skin tone. Having everything open at the same time, always very useful when you're blending skin tones. Being able to like pick up a little bit of your shadow or a little bit of any one of your stages to smooth things out is always beneficial. Yeah, now that you can see, like, now that all her skin is coming up really pallid, you can see she is actually kind of a disturbing figure. No Baba Yaga hut. All right. And that's pretty much what we did. We did a little bit of lining too and talked about how putting that dark line can really, if that dark line wasn't there, the skin wouldn't look nearly as pale as it does actually. So but she's definitely looking monstrous. Like she's definitely, this is going to be a very disturbing fungal queen, I think. She's not going to be just a pretty fungal queen. She is going to be kind of creepy. So I like that. I like kind of creepy. Crow's Nest. Oh my God, Ron is on. Ron and Michael. Oh my. Okay, y'all have to tune in for that. Like, seriously. Also, giving Ron is the original throw Ron under the bus. So, hopefully Michael will drive the bus over him and it'll be highly entertaining. 5 p.m. Central. Alrighty, stretching, because I missed my other stretch. And, who are we going to raid today, Quindy? Or Reaper, or whoever's in charge. I don't know. I always think Quindy's in charge these days. I think we put you in charge, Quindy. All right, Zambies. Fantastic. Okay, everybody. Tomorrow is Lizette Day. So it'll be Lizette for Wednesday. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Eat some fresh fruit now that we're all really hungry. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.